This is a single arm lat focused machine row. The machine that I'm on is the Nautilus Nitro mid row. Now, if this is the one that you're using and you have it at your gym, then fantastic, because it has an arm and also a handle that swivels, so you get a more natural arm path than a machine with just a fixed handle. Now, if you don't have this machine at your gym or something similar, no worries. If it looks something like this or this, then all my tips and the setup is pretty much the same. So for a lat focused machine row, you're going to set up that seat at a height to when you're pulling backwards, that hand is coming down at about a belly button height. If you have the seat adjusted to the correct height when you're pulling back, that forearm should be close to parallel to the ground, as you can see right here. If you feel too much of the bicep and not enough of the back, you may have the height of the seat a little bit too low to where you're pulling towards the chest versus towards the belly button. Also, those handles do swivel, so make sure that the handle is pointing upwards to the sky. For more stability and better bracing, make sure that you have that leg forward of the same arm that you are rowing with. So if you are rowing with your left hand, make sure you have your left foot forward. That way you can push with your foot and minimize rotation of the torso. Use the opposite arm to hold the pull in the center to also help you with bracing and minimize too much rotation of the torso. Before you start bending the elbow when rowing the weight, make sure you unrack the weight first, get set up with your foot, the opposite arm, have a neutral spine, and have that chest slightly up. Now that you are ready to row, the first thing you want to do as you pull back is imagine like you're pushing that hand and the elbow down towards the ground first as you begin the row. This will help you engage the lats, and as you are pulling backwards, imagine like you're trying to drop that shoulder down towards the ground and simultaneously push that chest slightly up. It's going to look almost like you are doing a side crunch as you're dropping that shoulder down to the hip and also pulling that elbow close and tight to the body. Make sure that you get a pause at the back at the top of the eccentric, and as you're going forward, again, imagine like you're pushing that elbow and that hand down. This will help keep tension on the lats and minimize use of the bicep. Tempo is super important, especially on back exercises where finding a good mind-muscle connection is a little bit harder than other muscle groups. So on that way forward, make sure you're getting a 3 to 4 second eccentric, and at the very back, at the top of the concentric, making sure you're pausing every single time. Notice that when I'm pulling back, I'm dropping the shoulder down to the hip and also trying to push that elbow into the side of my body. If you are doing it right, at the very top as you're pulling as far back as you can, and then trying to bring that elbow towards the side of the body, you'll feel an extra little contraction of the lats. As you are pulling backwards and trying to drop that shoulder down to your hip, make sure that you're not twisting that torso too much. If you are doing it correctly, the wrist and the elbow will be in line with each other. If you find that that wrist is outside of that elbow when you're pulling back, it probably means that you are rotating and twisting too much of the torso. On that way forward, make sure you're resetting your position, allowing the shoulder to come back up. Pay attention to how far I'm letting that arm travel forward during that eccentric, stopping at the point where that shoulder and the shoulder blades start going forward. This is to keep the tension in the lats and not overwork the teres and the traps. I also like to have a hook grip, meaning that that thumb is overhand. I find that I use a lot less of the bicep this way and feel a little bit more in the back. If you struggle with your grip mid-set, you could always wrap that thumb all the way around, or you could also use wrist straps for this exercise as well. It also helps to imagine like you are pulling through the pinky and the elbow. This exercise requires a lot of concentration, so it's going to be fatiguing both physically and mentally as well. Make sure you're trying your hardest on every rep to get a good mind-muscle connection and concentrate the best that you can. When you are pulling back and start to see that shoulder roll up before you start pulling back, that means that's form breakdown and you're getting close to failure, if not reached failure already. Let's grow that back, and you know what to do. Like and subscribe, please.